A new shocking film entitled Deliverance is taking viewers by storm on Netflix. Lee Daniels admitted the film was so cursed that he had to hire priests to perform daily exorcisms because the location and the starring cast were acting very strange. If you think you know everything about this film, you don't. So make sure you watch this whole entire video so that you don't miss nothing. Now, if you're a fan of the Exorcist films, Netflix's new horror movie should be up on your next to watch list. It may be hard to believe, but the project is based on real events that a family experienced over a decade ago.
Like as if a person was walking around.
So they felt like they had some substance for their
shadow. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So you'd seen those, which sounds horrible.
Yes.
Presence to experience.
Some of my other guests who came by, they saw them as well. Mm-hmm. So it had us.
Nobody would come back.
No friends, no family wanted to come around, and we understood because it was scary. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, we felt alone, hurt, lost, and we had no one to depend on but the Lord. Mm-hmm. So we stayed strong, kept our faith strong, and we became so strong that we decided to just fight him. It was do or die. It was either you fight or you die.
It's a story about Latoya Ammons, often referred to as the Ammons haunting or the demon house, and it's one of the most widely publicized cases of demonic possession in recent history. It all took place in Gary, Indiana in 2011 and became famous due to the extreme nature of the claims and the involvement of various professionals, including police officers, child welfare agents, and even a Catholic priest. Now, Latoya Ammons, along with her mother, Rosa Campbell, and her 3 children, moved into a rental home on Carolina Street in Gary, Indiana, back in 2011. Now, soon after, they began experiencing strange and life-changing occurrences that would forever change their lives. Now, the family reported incidents such as swarms of flies gathering on the porch in the middle of winter, strange unexplainable sounds, and shadowy figures appearing in the house. Now, the situation escalated when Latoya claimed that her children began exhibiting weird and violent behavior.
They don't need a parent. They need an exorcist.
One of the most disturbing incidents reported was that when her 12-year-old daughter was allegedly thrown against a wall by an unseen force, and her 9-year-old son reportedly walked backwards up a wall in front of a group of professionals, including a psychiatrist as well as social workers. Now, these bizarre occurrences left the medical professionals dumbfounded and scratching their heads, as this defied every understanding of any medical explanations they had known. Latoya and her mother, Rosa Campbell, reported hearing footsteps going up the basement stairs after midnight and the creak of a door opening between the basement and the kitchen. Now, one night, the grandmother recounted waking up to see a shadowy figure of a man pacing in her living room. When she got up to investigate, she discovered large, wet boot prints on the floor. She said, "This is not normal," as she recalled to the Indianapolis Star in 2014. "We killed them and killed them and killed them, but they kept coming back." But that wasn't the only strange thing happening in the house. Over the next few months, the incidents grew worse and worse. Latoya described witnessing her children levitating above their beds, being physically thrown out of the bathroom, getting injured by flying objects, and speaking in unnatural, deep voices. Now, the grandmother recalled telling their daughter, "We need help. We need to talk to someone who knows how to deal with it." Latoya and her mom contacted local churches, but most refused to listen and thought they were out of their minds. According to the Indy Star, one church official told the family their house did indeed have spirits in it and suggested they clean the home with bleach and ammonia, then use oil to draw crosses on every door and window. Latoya also followed a psychic's advice and set up an altar in her basement. She draped a white sheet over an end table, placed a white candle and a Mary, Joseph, and Jesus statue on it, and opened the Bible to Psalms 91. She told a website that she and another person wore white t-shirts and white scarves around their heads while burning sage and sulfur throughout the home. Now, Latoya said nothing happened for at least 3 days, but then things took a frightening and disturbing turn. The family reported that demons possessed Latoya and her children. The children's eyes bulged, evil smiles appeared on their faces, and their voices deepened during these episodes. The grandmother told the Indy Star that demons did not affect her because she was born with protection from evil. On April 19, 2012, the family visited their family physician, Dr. Jeffrey O. Latoya explained to the doctor the terrifying events they were experiencing. The doctor told the Indy Star that the situation was bizarre, adding 20 years, and I never heard of anything like that in my life. I was scared myself when I walked into the room. In his medical notes, Dr. O wrote the words, delusion of ghosts in home, hallucinations, history of ghosts at home, and delusional. During the visit, it was said that Latoya's sons cursed the doctor in demonic voices. Medical staff said the youngest boy was lifted and thrown into the wall with nobody touching him, a DCS report read. Someone from the doctor's office called 911, prompting the arrival of 8 police officers and several ambulances. Everybody was, and they couldn't figure out exactly what was happening, the doctor recalled to the Indy Star. As the police and emergency personnel took her sons to the Methodist Hospital campus in Gary, someone contacted the Indiana Department of Child Services to investigate Latoya for a possible child abuse or neglect. The unidentified caller suggested that she might have a mental illness and that the children were just performing for their mother.
He could not remember doing it 5 minutes afterwards. We had no words to explain it because we didn't understand it either. I worked as a child fatality worker. I investigated children dying. I've seen children in various situations burned, beaten, but after that it was traumatic.
Now, the case was assigned to DCS Family Case Manager Valerie Washington, who conducted the initial investigation. In her intake officer's report, she noted that the hospital examined Latoya and her children and found them healthy, while hospital psychiatrists concluded that Latoya was of sound mind. When Valerie Washington spoke with Latoya, the 7-year-old boy began growling with his teeth and his eyes rolled back in his head. He then locked his hands around his older brother's throat and refused to release him until the adults managed to pry his hands open. Later that evening, the 7-year-old reportedly said, "It's time to die," in a deep voice to his older brother. "I will kill you." In the eerie turn of events, Washington's original DCS report recounts that the 9-year-old had a weird grin and walked backward up a wall to the ceiling. He flipped over Campbell, landing on his feet, never letting go of his grandmother's hand. Now, Walker, the nurse at the time, corroborated this account. He walked up the wall, flipped over her, and stood there, Walker told the Indy Star. There's no way he could have done that. When police later asked Washington if the boy had ran up the wall as if performing an acrobatic trick, she answered no. According to a police report, Washington stated that the boy glided backward on the floor, wall, and ceiling. DCS eventually took emergency custody of Latoya's 3 children without a court order. Now, on April 20th, 2012, a hospital chaplain contacted Reverend Michael Magano, the priest at St. Stephen Martyr Parish in Maryville, Indiana, to perform an exorcism on Latoya's 9-year-old son. Magano performed 3 major exorcisms on Latoya at his church and blessed her new home in Indianapolis.
Catholic Church. 2 police officers were present in case Ammons needed to be restrained. These major exorcisms were effective as no demonic activity was documented in the family after the exorcisms. She regained custody of her children in November, over 6 months after they were removed. In summary, we have a chief of police for 23 years, a DCS case manager, an RN, and several other police officers who attest to the reality of these occurrences.
Afterward, Magano stated that he was convinced demons were tormenting the family and that there were ghosts in the house. Now, Latoya and her mother returned to Carolina Street to allow Washington to inspect the home's condition, accompanied by 3 police officers. According to police records, one of the officers' audio recorders malfunctioned. The power light flashed to indicate the batteries were dying, despite the officer inserting fresh batteries earlier that day. When another officer recorded audio and played it back later, he heard an unknown voice whisper, "Hey."
All of a sudden, while I'm involved in this conversation, the AM/FM radio went to static and turned up very loud, and it said, "You in there?" And the person on the phone say, "What the hell was that?" And I say, "I don't know."
What was your reaction?
I was in shock.
Now, one photo taken at the house appeared to have a cloudy white image resembling a face, while a second photo in green seemed to depict a female figure. Latoya regained custody of her children in November 2012 after moving to a new house and successfully meeting the objectives of the DCS case plan for her family. Now, in request for dismissal of wardship filed by the DCS in January 2013, it was noted that Latoya and her children had made progress and participated in home-based therapy. Now, the report also stated that the family have not experienced any issues with demonic presence or spirits in their home in Indianapolis, and they are moving on from that point in their lives. The family continues to attend church regularly on Sunday, but the family is no longer fixated solely on religion to explain or cope with the children's behavior issues. Their haunted home was eventually purchased for $35,000. The article said that the current tenant called the police to complain when reporters and photographers showed up, and she declined offers of money and interview requests. Now, the story began widespread attention after it was reported by local media and eventually picked up by national outlets. The house became a subject of interest for paranormal investigators and skeptics alike. In 2014, the story was turned into a documentary by Zach Baggins, a paranormal investigator and host of the TV show Ghost Adventures. Baggins purchased a house conducted on investigation and later demolished the property, citing it's too dangerous to remain standing. Now, while Latoya's haunting has its believers, it has also been met with skepticism. Some suggest that the events could be explained by psychological, environmental, or social factors rather than paranormal activity. Critics do argue that the story was sensationalized by the media and that many of the events described were exaggerated or misinterpreted. The Latoya case remains one of the most debated and controversial haunting cases in recent history, blurring the lines between belief in the paranormal and skepticism. If y'all think this video is crazy, make sure you click on the link that's currently on your screen right now and go over to Lionel B Garage and check out the craziest reality show ever.